so excited to be here today with my dear friend Tony Jones. Let me tell you a little bit about Tony. He's a visionary, he's a change agent, he's a social justice advocate, and he's also a published author. And his life story, which you'll hear today, serves as a testament to the transformation that can happen when we tap into our spirit of resilience. After reclaiming his freedom, Tony leveraged his unique perspective to dismantle barriers and advocate for positive change. So we'll talk more about Tony. You need to get ready for this amazing storyteller and to hear his story. So Tony, welcome to the show. And why don't you start by telling us your story because it is just one of my favorite stories in the entire planet.
It was like it was like my stomach turned when the judge yelled out, "Mr. Jones is getting a life sentence today." And I'm saying it so loud because he yelled it out. I mean, like I knew I was getting a life sentence. And when he said that, it just I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear anything else. My mind was just tunnel vision on what he just said. A life sentence. I never in my life thought that I was going to get a life sentence. Throughout the trial, I watched so-called friends testify against me. And all of them turned on me. And I know I just got played. It was so heartbreaking to watch people you grew up with to come and make up stuff just to get a time cut. And I sat there in silence for days in the cell, listening to my thoughts. Tony, it ain't over. Another thought, you got life. You don't have a date. When you don't have a date, you don't have a time you're getting out. You don't have a date. But then that other voice, it's not over. It's not over. It when I sat there as like 23 years old, it was just it was like the whole world was on me, pressing me down. I could not pick this thing up off me. And I just sat there in silence for days and days and days. And them days turned to years because throughout that time I was studying the law, trying to get myself back in the court to give this life sentence back.
It is just unbelievable how you were treated with injustice. And I say unbelievable because that's the feeling, but I know that it is believable because this happens all the time
Yes, it
i-
does.
in a disproportionate and unfair manner. Tell us about that. What did you discover about the justice system?
So it took me literally 9 years every day going to the law library to learn another language, the court rules, because the court does not acknowledge anything other than the court's rules. If you want to bring something to the court about your case, you have to learn the formalities, the procedures, and the language to bring that forth. And it took me 9 years, just 9 years versus 9 days, 9 years getting up every day, going to the library, looking up words through the Black Law Dictionary, comprehending these words, using them as a sentences to understand exactly what happened to me. And then once I got that 9 years passed, then I started pushing paperwork. I started fighting back, demanding my life back.
Mm, yeah. So what are some things that you discovered in the process of fighting the system or standing up for yourself? And what was that like?
You know, they have a slogan that says ignorance of the law is no excuse. But
Mm,
however, I'm being held accountable as to know the law, but I'm being punished as I knew the law. And it took me, like I said, 9 years just to find out that I was being sued by the government. And I'm being sued and I'm in default and nobody's telling me nothing, but I learned this on my own. And I was just in awe because ignorance of the law is so, I mean, it's not a pretty thing. It's like you sinking in quicksand and time limits are passing by. The court don't, if you're out of time, I mean, the court doesn't have no feeling, no empathy, no sympathy whatsoever, and they don't care. And but when I found how to fight, it was like now I level the playing field. I
Mhm.
level it now. So now they want to listen now because I'm using their language. And they they kept on bullying me. They kept on not answering. They kept my mail kept coming up missing. I kept getting shakedown. They kept things kept coming up missing, and I just kept my vision was, hey man, this is not the end of you. The thought kept going that this is not the end of you. Just keep pushing. Just keep pushing. You still got breath. Keep pushing. That got me through that.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. And to know, that's why, when I introduced you about, I talked about the transformative power of resilience, which is your topic and what you like to teach people about. And this definitely sounds like a resilient man. And you were studying the law and you were, fighting, advocating for yourself. Why do you think this is important to advocate for ourselves when something like this happened? And tell us a little bit about why this was injustice, why you didn't deserve the life sentence
Okay.
that the judge,
Right.
forced upon you.
Right. So at the time of getting sentenced, they had a war on drugs. And at the particular time, they had a drug disparity, meaning that crack versus powder, meaning powder cocaine gets sentenced to like a smack on the wrist, and crack, they're gonna give you a life sentence, a life sentence. So this is disparity, but at the same time is you don't notice, and then you get it's called mandatory minimums, meaning that automatic the minimum you can get is 10 years. The minimum, can you imagine going into the minimum you can get is 10 years and the maximum you can get is life? You can't even comprehend that at 23 years old. The automatic, you're saying you're gonna get 10 years regardless. But at the same time as I knew this what they was doing to me, it was I'm being bullied. I don't know the law, I don't know the rules, I don't know what's going on, I don't know nobody in this courtroom. And it's just like I'm watching people lose their lives. I'm watching them. You know, I'm not the only one got a life sentence. You know, when I got back to the jail, other people got life sentences too. And it was like they giving out life sentences like that for non-violent offenses. It just it like I said, I was in silence for days. I couldn't eat, I couldn't do anything because I'm like, you just killed me. You just took my life like that.
Yeah. And as a father, as a young father and a
Mhm.
son, that is not something that is a light a light sentence, right? How did you feel, as you thought about being a father and thought about your mother and what she was going through, knowing, this is something nonviolent, this is something that is being handled with, I would say, injustice and unfairness. What were your thoughts that were going through your mind?
When I seen my mother cry, that's the worst thing a son can see is seeing his mother cry. Worst thing. Never seen that in my life. That was one of the factors that made me want to fight more because I didn't never want to see that again. And I wanted to show my mother I can get out of here. But when I watched my mother cry, that messed me up because a son, you don't see your mother cry. Your mother always the opposite, is always happy. And that right there, the days that well, that was motivating me to go to the law library, go to the law library, go to the law library because I wanted to reunite back with my parents, with my two daughters. Those things like that was motivating me every day to fight for them, fight for them, fight for them, fight for them. It's not about me. It's for them. It's for them. I'm not, this is not the end of me. And that was the motivating fact that I'm not going to accept these life sentences. I'm going to fight back every day, every day. So that was the determined fact. No man, no son want to see his mother cry.
Oh, absolutely. Wow, that's powerful. And you always have this other focus, resilience, because now you also help others advocate for themselves. Tell me a little bit about the work that you do.
So I'm a lead organizer, community organizer. I've been working for this nonprofit organization for like 8 years now, and I help direct affected people in the community get change. I bring them and their voices in front of the decision makers like city council, school board, state officials, and let them hear their story, their personal stories. And when you have a story, you have a physical person. You can't deny this person's story. This person is impacted by something that y'all legislated, and this is the effects of it. So I help people, the community, get things like education, get fund for education. I get also help get the transportation out in this another city to extend the hours and to invest $10 million. I also worked on Medicaid expansion. I worked on so many issues, but the whole thing about it is always geared towards the people, is always geared towards the community. So I worked on state issues, local issues, and national issues.
Amazing. And so I love when you share that because this is what the world was missing out on when you were behind bars.
Yeah,
So they were preventing you from making the kind of contribution that you're making in the world. And now we can see all the ripple effect
right.
it has impacted positively your community because you are out in society. So tell everybody, because I'm sure they want to know how many years you served and how was it that you were able to finally prove that this was an unfair sentence and that you weren't going to spend the rest of your life in jail.
So I spent 19 years and like 8 months in prison. I stopped counting. I knew it was going on 20 years straight. And but throughout that time, I did not know that God was forming me into this new person that was going to advocate for everybody. Didn't know it. The days I would read and study, and mind you, is I'm in silence because there's not a lot of people in prison who wants to advocate for themselves. They get comfortable in complexity. They just want to do the same thing every day, every day. Go eat, come back to the unit. I couldn't do that. So therefore, it's like I couldn't even like share with them like small victories or hey man, if you really want to get out of prison, you need to read this book. And so on and so forth. So it's like days I was just like these days turned to weeks. I'm still in silence, but my best friend was the Black Law Dictionary. And I would stay in my room for hours and hours going through each term to get a good understanding of these words because I knew these words would have to stand up for me and say like boom when they get to the judges or the prosecutor's desk. And I always should tell people, I said, watch this petition stand up like a soldier when they get to his destination.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my like my pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
My pleasure because they didn't never know what they're turning me. They don't turn me into this advocate. You gave me a life sentence and then you think I'm just gonna sit here? Oh no. So
Oh no.
I read and studied and I studied, and I didn't go into prison with glasses. So now I wear bifocals. So evidently I exhausted my eyeballs, but it was all worth it. It was all worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I am happy we can laugh about it today.
Yeah.
It's a very serious matter that still happens today. And I'm really proud of you for advocating for yourself and advocating for others. Something that I'm curious about, and since we touched on it, I'm sure our viewers today can probably think about that. What was that moment like when you reunited with your loved ones, when they saw
Oh,
you finally out of this prison? And what was that? What did that feel like?
All right, let me go to this day when I told myself I'm walking out the door. I told myself maybe do that 9 years I said I was studying the law. I was convicted. I was telling myself I'm gonna walk right out this door. And then after that 10 years, another 10 years passed and came to 19 years and 9, 10 months. When I finally walked through them doors and my mother, my dad and my brother, was there, I can see my mother's heart, her eyes, and her whole like structure. She was just so relieved of
Hmm.
now I can hug her outside of a prison. And I held her so tight and I kissed her on her cheek. And I just kept on holding her. She smiled and laughed, and I just held her. First, I didn't even want to let her go. Then I went to my dad, and then I went to my brother. I squeezed him, I picked him up, but it was an unbelievable feeling because I'd never felt this feeling before.
Yeah.
And it took 19 years to get there and hold my mother like that. And I just, to this day, we talk about that day. We always talk about that day, because it was something that I was looking for every day to walk through those doors and then grab my mother and hold her and kiss her on her cheek. Just keep on kissing her. And
Yeah.
she smiled just like you smiled. And I just kept on kissing her cheek. And she was like, she just enjoyed it. And I enjoyed every second of it. And I just, her smile, that was all I needed right there to keep on pushing forward.
Yeah. Wow, that is amazing, and I'm very proud of you, as I said, and I definitely I'm very inspired by you. I say, that this is one of my favorite stories because it really proves that no matter how hopeless things seem to be, that there could be possibly a way out. And what happens when you embrace that? Because what I think, I always say that if I were born, a hundred years before, I would have probably been married to Henry David Thoreau. Love, love, love that author. And that he said many people live their lives in quiet desperation. And when you told me about the people in prison, in jail, who are complacent and comfortable, I think it's more of a quiet resignation. I think it's more of a I can't do anything, so I might as well just get comfortable with this because this is what I know. And I think that what you're sharing with us is that, no matter how gray it seems, to find that glimmer of light and to educate ourselves. And I know that you're advocating for schools now in a different way. Tell us a little bit about your work and your advocacy with this new idea that you're bringing to light.
So when I was in prison, I was thinking to myself, one day reading, it's no way in the world how they're gonna hold me accountable for knowing all this stuff and you gonna give me a life sentence. So I said, public schools should be afforded the opportunity to learn basic legal terms and practices in reference to the criminal justice system. If a kid or kids learn about their responsibilities and their rights, they'll become productive citizens. How I know at 23 years old, I couldn't put a law book down after I got 2 life sentences. And to this day, I still read. I still have stuff like this. This is
Yeah,
law books.
awesome.
I still have stuff like this because I'm infatuated about the law. I don't want to be in the dark.
Yeah,
Because you're in the dark, you don't know. I don't like to be in. I don't like that for the being taken advantage of. I don't like stuff like that. So I think young people should have an opportunity to actually to embark upon that journey to start learning new words in reference to the criminal justice system. Know
yeah,
how it works, the mechanics, the fundamentals of it, just a little icebreaker of it. And these kids would say, "Wow, I didn't know that." Next thing you know, that might motivate them or inspire them to further the education in reference to learning about the legal terms and practice, or want to become a lawyer when they graduate.
yeah. Wow. So inspiring. And I have personally learned so much while we're working on your gifts of pain stories
Mhm.
because you've being in many of them. You're in the next one too. And I have learned terms that I didn't know about and I had never heard before our work together. And in working on these stories, I have been empowered with knowledge that I didn't know about. So I'm really grateful for that, grateful for you. And I think that it definitely will be making a difference when our kids are empowered with this knowledge, when everyone is empowered with this knowledge. Now, why do you continue to tell your story? Why is it important for us to share our stories with the world and especially yours? Tell me about how that process has been for you.
Most people don't believe in themselves. It's plain and simple. But if a person share this story about resilience, being resilient, they can have hope now because they can say, this guy can do it, I can do it. He had patience, I can have patience. He
Yeah.
wasn't a lawyer, but he became a lawyer. And you just take it one day at a time. And a lot of times people thinking about the destination, but they don't understand the journey is so beautiful. You know, it's so beautiful. When you're looking at it, looking at it now, all those things that I was learning, learning and learning, and I would have never learned that in the streets. I would have never learned that. So I just invite people. I just want people to learn from my story. Whatever anybody's going through, look at my situation and say, if he can go through all that chaos and commotion every day for almost 20 years straight and have a sound mind to come out, whatever I'm going through, I can go through it and I can see on the other side, I can see the benefit from it, or I can see the pain, how it created me to be a stronger person. And it made me like I said, resilient.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also I want to highlight what a, delightful person you are, and how much you give to the world. So, when we are resilient, like you said, and we learn from our darkest times and we share our story, we can also become a better contributor to society. And
Yes.
so that's really, really incredible. And I'm really grateful for you sharing this story. Working with you on it was so or has been, because we're still working on it, has been so exciting. But you also have a book that you have written, and tell us about that manuscript, because it's a quite extensive manuscript. What do you go through in that in
So
that?
this book you're talking about is called Redemption, Incarceration, a blueprint how to stay out and get out of prison. This
Yes.
book is about me growing up as a young man, and then me, going to high school. The next thing you know, me getting in trouble, and me getting a life sentence, and then me fighting and learning the law and going through the chaos every day in prison, and then eventually get my freedom. But I that book, it's every time I read it, it makes me feel I can feel the same thing, the things I was going through at that particular time. And I figure like this, God take us through things. There's no way in the world this story I have gonna die if I pass. It's gonna be here. I told myself, there's no way in the world I'm gonna let this story just die when I die. No, I'm
Mhm.
gonna write this story, and it's gonna be here when I'm long gone. Or can help somebody else.
Absolutely. We're almost out of time, which goes by so quickly, because I would ask you so many more things and I would share so much with you. You have so much wisdom to share with everyone. So, what is one thing that you think that everyone could do after hearing your story today?
This is Black Law Dictionary. This is right here. I want people to start off right here first. Now I'm telling you, I combed through this book. Why? Because, like I said earlier, if you really want to know what's going on in court, you have to actually know those terms. And remember, a Black Law Dictionary is a decoder. So it's decoding words that's just being said in court. So I just want to invite people to get a Black Law Dictionary.
Mhm.
The new editions, get the old edition, the first or the second editions.
Mm.
Start looking up legal terms that the courts and judges and prosecutors are using so you can get an understanding of what's being said.
Yeah.
That's what I want to invite the people to.
I love that. Thank you so much, Tony. I really appreciate that. And I definitely agree with you that we should all do that. I did it when you told me to. And that's definitely something that I incorporate in my homeschooling now, and I really am grateful for the way that you're spreading awareness. Everyone, please make sure that you're following Tony. We have all of the details down in the show notes so that you can connect with Tony further and learn more from him and about the books that he has written, including The Gifts of Pain. And I just want to say thank you so much, Tony. You're so inspiring. I really am honored to be able to spend time with you, work with you, and also call you a friend. And it's just really magnificent that you are doing what you're doing and that you had the insight and the motivation and the inspiration to not only get and stay out of prison and jail yourself, but help others do the same.
Exactly.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. See you next Thursday in another Transformational Storytellers show. And I love you. Mwah.